Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are digging into a huge piece of news in the pharma world, the FDA's approval of Lynkuet, that's Elinzanetant, a brand new treatment from Bayer.
And this is way more than just another approval. It's a genuine market disruption, especially in women's health. For anyone tracking this space, this event completely redraws the competitive lines for non-hormonal treatments.
Okay, let's get right into it. The core details. What exactly is Lynkuet approved for?
It's for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, or VMS. Most of us know them as hot flashes and night sweats that come with menopause.
And it's a new molecular entity, right? An NME.
Exactly. It's a brand new type of compound, which is always significant. It's non-hormonal, which is the whole point, and it works as a dual neurokinin 1 and neurokinin 3 receptor antagonist.
That dual action is something we definitely need to circle back to. But first, what about the results? How effective is it?
Well, the phase 3 data is really what sealed the deal. The two main studies, OASIS 1 and 2, showed a reduction in hot flashes that was both statistically significant and clinically meaningful.
What does that look like in, real-world terms?
We're talking about a drop of about 3.0 to 3.3 hot flashes per day more than what you saw with placebo. That was by week 12. For someone suffering from this, that is a massive improvement.
And this isn't just a 12-week fix, I take it.
No, and that's crucial. The OASIS 3 study provided the long-term data showing that the efficacy and safety held up over a full 52 weeks, a whole year.
Which is so important for a condition that can go on for much longer than that.
Absolutely.
So let's zoom out a bit. To really get why this matters so much, you have to understand the problem they're trying to solve. The scale of VMS is just enormous.
It really is. It's a huge quality of life issue. These sudden, intense feelings of heat, flushing, sweating. It's not just uncomfortable.
No.
It disrupts sleep, concentration, and we're not talking about a small group of people. Up to 80% of women go through this, and the average duration is 7 years.
7 years. That's staggering. And for so long, the main option was hormone therapy, or HT. That came with a big catch.
A very big catch. HT is effective, no question, but it also carries these well-known risks. Things like an increased risk of venous thromboembolism, VTE, and certain types of breast cancer.
Which means a huge number of women just can't take it.
Exactly. Any woman with a history of estrogen-dependent cancer or a VTE, HT is just off the table. So they've been left with this massive, painful, unmet need.
Which brings us to the science behind Lynkuet. It's so clever. It manages to provide that kind of relief without actually being a hormone. How does it work?
Okay, so this is the aha moment. In your brain, there's a set of neurons called KND neurons. They're like your body's central thermostat.
Right.
Normally, estrogen acts like a dimmer switch, keeping those neurons calm and balanced. But during menopause, estrogen levels drop off a cliff.
And the dimmer switch breaks.
It breaks. And this other molecule, neurokinin B, or NKB, floods in and just cranks those neurons into overdrive.
Causing a hot flash.
That's it. It throws your thermoregulation completely out of whack. So Lynkuet works by blocking the receptors on those neurons, both the NK1 and NK3 receptors, which basically puts the dimmer switch back in place. It calms everything down without using hormones.
Okay, so that dual NK1 and NK3 action immediately makes me think about the competition. Because Lynkuet is not the first player in this field.
Not at all. It has a very clear peer. Elinzanetant, or Veozah from Astellas, that was approved back in May of 2023.
And that's an NK3 only inhibitor.
That's the key difference in mechanism. But the real story, the battleground, is not the mechanism. It's the liver safety profile.
Right. The liver safety showdown, this is where the story gets really interesting from a market perspective. Veozah has had a much tougher time.
A much tougher time. Its original label already had a warning for elevated liver enzymes, but then, after it was on the market, reports of severe drug-induced liver injury, DIL, started coming in.
And the FDA had to act.
They did. In December 2024, that warning was upgraded to a boxed warning, and that is the FDA's most serious safety alert you can get, short of pulling a drug from the market.
A boxed warning changes everything. It changes marketing, reimbursement, and frankly, how willing a primary care doctor is to even prescribe it.
Absolutely. It's a huge red flag. It adds a ton of friction to the whole process.
So how did Lynkuet fare in comparison? This is the core of the story.
They avoided it completely. This is the key differentiator. The FDA looked at the data and decided a formal risk management plan, a REM, wasn't even needed.
So just standard labeling.
Just standard labeling. The data was just that clean. The incidence of elevated liver enzymes was tiny, 0.6% on the drug versus 0.4% on placebo. And critically, there were 0 cases that met the criteria for Hy's law.
which is the gold standard for predicting serious liver injury.
The absolute gold standard.
That is just a night and day difference. And the FDA actually explained why, didn't they? It came down to the chemistry of the drugs themselves.
Yes, their computational toxicology team did a deep dive. They found that Elinzanetant has a specific molecular structure, a thiodiazole ring, that's known to create these reactive metabolites that can be toxic to the liver.
And Lynkuet doesn't have that.
It doesn't. It has a much simpler benzene ring,
Right.
which is way less likely to cause those problems. So, in a way, the wrist was designed out of the molecule from the start.
A textbook case of smart drug design leading to a huge regulatory win.
Exactly.
So Lynkuet dodged the big one, the boxed warning, but it's not totally without warnings, right?
Yeah.
What's on the label?
Right. There are still standard precautions. First, the liver enzyme issue is still mentioned. It requires a baseline liver function test before starting, and then another one at the 3-month mark.
Okay, that's manageable.
Very manageable. Second, it can have a CNS depressant effect. Sleepiness, fatigue, dizziness. That's why you take it at bedtime, and they tell you to be careful with driving until you know how it affects you.
Makes sense. And the other two?
There's a general caution for anyone with a history of seizures. And fourth, it's contraindicated in pregnancy. Animal data showed a risk of pregnancy loss, so contraception is required if there's any chance of that.
Got it. Now, what about drug interactions? That's always a source of friction for doctors.
It is, and this is an important one. Lynkuet is metabolized by an enzyme called CYP3A4. That means you have to avoid strong inhibitors of that enzyme.
Things like certain antifungal drugs or even grapefruit juice, right?
Exactly. Grapefruit juice is the classic example, but then there's a second layer of complexity with moderate inhibitors.
So if a patient is on one of those,
then the dose has to be cut in half, from 120 milligrams down to 60. And that means the doctor really has to check the patient's entire medication list before writing the script. It adds a step.
Okay, that is a good point about the logistics. Before we get to the investment angle, I want to go back to a clinical finding from the trials that I think is getting overlooked.
The sleep data.
Yes, the sleep data.
It's fascinating. The trials showed a significant improvement in sleep quality. And here's the kicker. It was partially independent of the hot flash relief.
Meaning, it's not just that people are sleeping better because they're not waking up in a sweat.
Exactly. The drug itself seems to be having a direct positive effect on the brain's sleep pathways. That's a huge potential benefit for this population.
A huge selling point. And they also showed it worked well in women being treated for breast cancer, a really high-risk group.
Yes, the OASIS-4 trial confirmed that. It shows how useful this is for a group that has almost no other non-hormonal options.
Okay, let's put it all together from an investor's perspective. The market is clearly huge. The competitor, Veozah, has already treated over 200,000 women. The demand is there. So how does Lynkuet win?
It all comes down to the safety profile. Lynkuet is coming to market with a product that is highly effective, but crucially, it doesn't have a boxed warning for severe liver damage.
And for a primary care doc or a gynecologist, that's everything.
It's almost everything. The drug that avoids the boxed warning and just needs one follow-up liver test is just so much more appealing from a liability and workflow standpoint.
Now, some might say the incumbent has a first-mover advantage. They have brand recognition, relationships with insurance companies. Can't they just cut their price to compete?
They can, and they probably will. But the boxed warning gives Bayer a structural advantage. Payers, insurance companies hate risk. A box warning gives them a perfect reason to put up barriers, like requiring a patient to fail on another drug first.
So Lynkuet, with its cleaner label, could actually get better, less restrictive insurance coverage.
Potentially, yes. For the doctor, less liability plus less paperwork is a winning combination every time. The sleep benefit is just the cherry on top. And that brings us to our "this is not financial advice" segment.
Our outrageous but plausible trade idea.
Given this huge difference in the regulatory outcomes, we think the market is really underestimating how quickly scripts are going to shift away from the incumbent.
So what's the trade?
The trade idea is a classic pair trade. Long Bayer, short Astellas.
Okay, lay out the thesis.
The thesis is simple. For doctors treating menopause, risk mitigation is paramount. They will overwhelmingly choose the drug that doesn't carry a boxed warning for fatal liver injury. We predict that Lynkuet's superior safety label, plus its dual mechanism and the sleep benefit, will allow it to capture 75% of all new patient starts in this class within 18 months.
75%, that's aggressive.
It is, but it leads to massive script erosion and margin pressure for the competitor. It's a clear case where a regulatory decision should translate directly into a valuation disconnect between two companies.
A very compelling thesis,
Yeah.
built entirely on that differentiated safety signal from the FDA. So, to wrap up our deep dive, the approval of Lynkuet is a massive deal.
It's a huge advancement. It offers a highly effective non-hormonal treatment with a much cleaner safety profile than its main rival. It's setting the stage for a really intense competitive fight.
And that leaves a final provocative thought for you, our listener, to chew on. Given the powerful efficacy, the solid 1-year safety data, and the intense pressure on doctors to avoid boxed warnings, how long will it take for a drug like this to go from being a second-line option to becoming the dominant first-line choice for any doctor who just wants the safest, most effective tool in the box?